Ladies and gentlemen, we're expecting some moderate turbulence.
Please remain seated and enjoy the show. Hello.
And welcome to
Moderate Turbulence.
I'm Jeremy.
I'm Adele.
Hi, Adele. How are you?
Hi, Jeremy. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. How's little Pom Pom? How's Roxy doing?
She's good. We'll show her a little bit up here, and then she'll just stay on my lap.
It looks like our decor here is growing a little bit. We've got a few... Well, we went back to these old mic stands just because the mics on the table were making the table make noise. So, we're just trying a few things out, trying to get things as clear as possible for the podcast here.
Yeah, so we clearly went to IKEA, and things are going to spring up here and there. So these lovely fake plants filled with corks that I've collected and Jeremy've collected.
And helped you a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Our poster is going to get a revamp, like a
different frame and stuff.
Yeah, and then the cacti over here. So yeah, little things just to add a little color and a little pizzazz to the YouTube decor. So if you're, again, not listening, watching on YouTube, head over to our YouTube channel and then you can see us in our podcasting room. And of course, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Mm-hmm. And let's get into today's episode.
Well, first of all, today I'm rocking the Mazatlan mug, which we got actually when we went on our cruise January of last year.
February
of last year. I thought it was January. February of last year. And so we did stop in Mazatlan. We actually went to Starbucks there and got this mug, part of the collection.
Well, fun fact, that's actually the first Starbucks mug I've ever purchased.
There you go.
Because, I don't know, we just walked in and it was a beautiful Starbucks and I just zeroed in on those mugs. They were just so pretty. They're just, this one in particular just has like a bunch of like sea creatures and like paradise things, Mexico and, just little things that are just caught my attention. So I bought it. Didn't really think anything of growing a Starbucks mug collection at that point. It was just a souvenir from our trip. But then after that, I just decided to collect them when
Why
we were
not, right?
living in Vancouver. Got the Vancouver mug, got the Whistler mug, got I don't know what other mugs I got at that point, but then the collection just it's growing now, so it's not gonna stop.
Yeah, when we came back to Calgary, then we'll grab a Calgary mug. Oh, we also got a Canada mug. Oh, now we're stopping in Toronto. Let's try and get a Toronto mug. Couldn't get one anywhere. Oh, Jeremy, you're going to London and Frankfurt. Get me those mugs. So I got the London. I haven't got the Frankfurt yet. Working on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it all depends on where the Starbucks are located, but also, fun fact or not even fun fact, it's just the Toronto one has been the hardest to get.
It's like the holy grail of Starbucks mugs for us right now.
Yeah, we've seen the mini ones, so like the ornament or shot glass or espresso glass size ones that have the Toronto name and like design on it. Mm-hmm. But at the airport, I mean, I go through Toronto almost every pairing, if not at least every couple weeks. Mm-hmm. And there's 2 Starbucks past security at the Toronto airport for domestic. They don't have it there. So you went to Toronto as well. You went through what 4 or 5 different Starbucks in downtown? I went to a few
downtown, and then of course the ones at the airport before security and after security. And like you said, couldn't find them. And I do have another. We just got our schedule, so I do go to Toronto next month once. And I'll probably go visit some family. So I might go to Starbucks that aren't in as touristy areas. And who knows, maybe we'll get lucky.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I have a lot of new destinations for mugs coming up in April. So hopefully the collection will grow a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So on to today's episode. We're going to start off with highs and lows. So Adele, do you want to start with highs or lows?
Well, let's start with some highs.
Okay.
I mean, we've just mentioned our April schedules. So we just got them 2-3 days ago. Mm-hmm. So we're still like setting stuff up for next month. I just texted my cousin Caitlin to see her next month during one of my layovers in Edmonton. I have been able to hold some US layovers. So I have a San Francisco finally. I have Los Angeles.
You got a couple good ones there, yeah.
Yeah, a few nice ones. So it's going to be nice to finally have layovers in the States. And of course, go to Trader Joe's and just enjoy some of the American shopping down there. So that's going to be lots of fun. And of course, Starbucks mug. So I have a Los Angeles one. I definitely need the San Francisco. So for next month, here are my plans. I want St. John's, Newfoundland. I want San Francisco. I'm hoping Houston as well because I have a layover in Houston.
That'd be a good one to get, yeah.
And I think that's it for that. And we'll see about Toronto if we ever get our hands on that one, if they ever get them in stock. I don't know if they're just not stocking them or what's the deal with that, but who knows?
We'll search.
Yeah.
We'll try.
There was one other one that I wanted as well, but I forget.
Well, I know you're going to Vegas, but I already got you that one.
Yeah, the Vegas one. Yeah, but I mean the collection is growing. So that's like my high. Just overall, a good April schedule's looking okay. So that's exciting.
So for me, my high was this past week. I just did one pairing. I did a London flight, and I got to fly with one of my good friends, Alberto, who's also a friend of the podcast, who was on an episode, and we will get you on an episode again soon. And it was funny. So the rest of the crew, we had just an amazing crew going to London to and from, and we all got along really well. Some of the crew members were asking if Alberto and I had like known each other for years. Like, were you guys friends before you started working as flight attendants? And we're like, no, we just worked really closely together over the last year and a little bit in the training center in Vancouver there. So we were like in close proximity. Our dogs got to know each other. We'd go on walks together. His girlfriend works with the company as well. And yeah, so we got along really well. It was just fun to fly with him and crack jokes and just overall have a great experience. We're just listening. We can hear one of our cats meowing upstairs.
Yeah, I don't know. He's sad because we're not giving him attention right now. So if you hear loud elephant steps, those are Maui steps.
Because he has big, big paws.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, for sure, flying with friends is just having a good crew. Like my crew earlier this month is just so nice. It's an extra little cherry on top of, like, you had a nice layover, so you can have like a nice layover with friends or with good crew. It's just really, really pleasant. It makes the job just
makes it enjoyable.
Feel like you're not working.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Do you have a low from this past week?
For my low, I think just the April schedule, coming back to it, I have, some great layovers, but then I have a lot of long pairings. So I'm not used to that. I have a couple 4-day pairings, which means I'm away for 4 days. I haven't done those since before COVID because I was on reserve and I didn't get those. And then we were in training anyway. So it's been a while. It's just those pairings. Yeah. Even if you have nice layovers, it gets tiring because you're working, get to the hotel, you sleep, then you work and you get to the next hotel and then you sleep. And then you're going through customs and then you're flying through different countries constantly going back and forth. So it's just like a lot. So I'm kind of nervous about that because I have some of my nice layovers in the middle of those 4-day pairings. So I'm nervous that I'm going to either be too tired to like really enjoy those places, or like I'm going to force myself to do stuff on my layovers and then be too tired when I work. So it's like, I'm excited, but a little bit like, ooh, scared of what's going to happen.
You have to earn those layovers, right? So the nice layovers in the middle of a 4-day pairing, you work hard to earn those decent layovers.
Yeah. And it's just like, I'm definitely going to do stuff, but and also they're not super long layovers. Like I'm not there for 24 hours or anything. It's like my layovers in nice places are between 14 to 17 hours next month. So it's like literally you get in, you might do stuff at night before you go to bed, or you go do something in the morning before you go to work.
Yeah.
So it'll be like, ooh. anyways, it'll be fun anyway. But yeah, I'll keep you posted on what's happening through my pairings.
Yeah. For me, a low, I'm going to touch a couple more little highs, but I'm also going to highlight a low. So one thing that Alberto is known for and what he spoke about on the podcast is plane spotting. So we had planned, if we got to London and the weather was beautiful, we were going to go right back to the airport. There's a spot at the London Heathrow Airport that's perfect for plane spotting. Lots of people go there. It's on Myrtle Avenue. And so we were planning it. We were looking up the different routes to get there, how to take the tube all the way back to London Heathrow. But when we arrived, it was raining and it was ugly out. It was not a nice day for plane spotting. Now, since we were like geared up and ready to go to do some photography, we were like super hyped up for it. So on the way over, we got some amazing shots of the Northern Lights. Alberto already shared some on his Instagram. And then on the way home, I got a couple great shots of Greenland because we flew right over the middle of Greenland. So I'm going to maybe post those around here when I do some editing so you can see some of the cool shots we could see from the aircraft. So the low was not being able to do plane spotting with Alberto in London, but we'll get another chance, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, he seems to be able to get those pairings and you almost exclusively fly to London. So I'm wishing that for you both.
Well, thank you.
Especially in the summer. That would be even better if it's nice weather in the summer in the UK.
Yeah. Well, what would be amazing is, and just, time differences and things like that, if we could get some golden hour shots at Heathrow. The only problem is you want to get the cool airplanes, and a lot of the big aircraft, so the ones that we want to catch, the 350s, the 380s, 777s, 87s, a lot of those land in the early afternoon. So it's not quite golden hour. So, you got to sort of plan a little bit to get the good shots, right?
Well, like I said, hopefully soon.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So highs and lows. Good.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I'm good.
Tying to the next part of where we're going to discuss today, one of the lows that I keep getting, and it's getting a little bit of an annoyance, honestly. So if you're flying as a passenger,
think of this. Yeah.
Keep this in mind. So what I'm getting a lot, and this has happened frequently now for me, hasn't happened to you yet, you said,
Not yet,
but
no.
I'm sure it will. So passengers are on the plane either during boarding, during the flight, or as we're taxiing to to take off. I've had passengers stop one of my flight attendants, asking me or informing me that their bag hasn't made it on the flight. How do they know this? Well, because they have AirTags, and they place the AirTags in the checked luggage so they can track their whereabouts. So let me just preface this saying I think that's a really smart thing to do. If you're traveling, I definitely want us to get some AirTags for our next trip just to know where our stuff is, or to put on like maybe our purses or something, or backpacks as we're walking around the cities or wherever, just in case, so we can track stuff down. Very, very smart thing to use. However, when you're on the plane, unfortunately, not the flight attendant's responsibility. And honestly, the flight attendants can't do anything about that at that point. Your bags, at that point, whether they're actually still in the terminal or they've made it on board, that's the baggage agent's responsibility at the departing airport and the arriving airport. The flight attendants, they don't have any way to check. They don't have any way to tell anyone about, Mr. at 12 Delta said their bag isn't on because of an AirTag. So
there's no procedure in place for that. And is it okay if I get into a little bit of AirTag technicalities? So the way an AirTag works, it has a battery in it, and it transmits a Bluetooth signal. Now it's looking for any iDevice, so whether it's an iPhone, an iPad, a MacBook, something that has their Bluetooth open, and it basically will hook onto that and say, "Hi, I'm an AirTag. That's it. Now, the AirTag's only going to work within 10 meters or about 33 feet of any device that it comes in contact with. And then it uses the GPS location of the device. AirTags themselves do not hold a GPS location. They don't have a GPS tracker. They'll just talk to a device and say, hey, device, where are you? Okay, well, that's where I am, roughly within 10 meters. Sometimes people's phones don't work 100% or they don't for like GPS coordinates. In fact, the other day I was driving and again, I just got an iPhone about a month ago now. And so I'm still getting used to it. And so I set up my Google Maps to try and, direct me somewhere. And it thought I was at home, but I was actually at the airport trying to leave the airport. And so I kept saying refresh. I want to go home, or I want to go. I was going to my dad's place or something. And it kept thinking I was home. So it's not 100% effective technology. So if that AirTag hooked onto, let's say, a baggage handler who has an iPhone in their pocket, but their GPS is off or their GPS is off coordinates for that second, your AirTag might show that it's somewhere that it's not. So my advice would be, if you're tracking your bags with an AirTag, great idea, but don't freak out if it doesn't show that it's on board right away. Wait till you get to your destination. And then as you're getting off the plane and as you're waiting for your bags at the baggage carousel, use your AirTag tracker and try and see where it is. Try and see if it's been tracked at the local airport where you are. If you're on board an aircraft and you're just boarding and you're like, oh no, my bag's not on board, don't trust it quite at that point. Wait till you get to your destination. That would be my best advice.
Yeah, and rolling your eyes at the flight attendant or giving them attitude or saying, well, can I claim it right now while you're on your way to the destination? Not the best thing to do. So I've had that. I've had on one of my most recent flights, someone were in the air on an aircraft, unfortunately with no Wi-Fi, telling my flight attendant that they need to start claiming their missing bag right away before they land in the destination we were going. And trust me, we know how frustrating it is to have a bag lost, arrive at your destination, not having your bag arrived at the same time. Definitely frustrating, definitely not an ideal situation. And
We've
definitely
experienced
the airline is liable to bring you that bag or reimburse you if they do completely lose it. But you can't claim your luggage. You can't claim your lost luggage until you've arrived at your destination and actually physically see that your bag isn't there. Because trust me, with the technology that you just explained, your bag probably made it.
Yep.
And then the baggage handler isn't going to say, oh yeah, let's definitely claim your bag, instead of waiting maybe 5 to 10 minutes to see if it's actually going to arrive on the carousel. So just keep that in mind. Great technology, great little devices. However, as a passenger on a plane, keep in mind that the flight attendants aren't the ones to blame. They're not the ones to give attitude to. And also, just please don't ask them about it. They can't check. They don't know. And they're really just going to be able to say, claim it once you get at your destination. Ask the baggage handlers at your arriving airport.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's something that keeps happening to me, and I just see it happening more and more. So hopefully passengers were going to realize, I mean, that's wishful thinking, honestly, but if you've experienced this as a passenger or you're planning on using AirTags, just keep this in mind. It's a good technology, but not foolproof.
Yeah. So my experience just over a year ago now, I was coming from Toronto to Calgary, and unfortunately my bag didn't make it on the flight. And so I went to baggage claim and I said, hey, here's the situation. They said, okay, they pulled up my name. They're like, yes, your bag is actually going to be coming on the next flight, which is going to be tomorrow. And then we'll have it delivered to your door by 1:30 p.m. And I was like, okay. 1:29 p.m., the doorbell rings. Here's your luggage, sir. Easy peasy. Did it suck a little bit that I didn't have my bag to come home? Not really. It's all my check stuff. It wasn't stuff I needed right away. Was it great that I didn't have to drag it to my car, load it in there, drag it up to the door? Yeah, that was nice. It was kind of nice to have it delivered right to my door. So would I recommend it? No. But did they take care of me? Absolutely. Absolutely. So even if you do lose a bag, nowadays with technology, they're going to get it to you as soon as possible.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people are getting scared though with like the really viral videos or stories that go around. And there has been one that went around, I think in the fall, of someone in Canada that traveled. I don't know from where to where she was traveling, but I think she ended up in Toronto. That's where she lives. Mm-hmm. And she had an AirTag in her bag and she kept tracking her bag. And the airline kept saying, okay, we've lost it. We don't know where it is. And she was tracking with the AirTags. She could see where it was. And it ended up being donated or something to like
I heard about
a donation center because it had been so long since her bag had been lost. So the airline couldn't deliver it to her anymore. But since she was tracking it, she kept saying, but no, I know where my bag is. And it was a whole thing and it went viral and people were outraged and just shocked at how things happen. But it's also like, it's an unfortunate situation. It really, really sucks for that person. But it's also not a reason to start giving attitude to the airline workers because you don't know exactly where your bag is because you're tracking with the AirTag. So just be mindful of that. Definitely, you can use it if you need to, but pick and choose who you decide to ask about it.
Yeah. Let us know if you have AirTags, if you have any experience with AirTags. Let us know in the comments on our Instagram or on YouTube there. And we're going to move on to our next story. Adele has a story to share with us.
Yeah, so this is not a great story. It's a story of a bad passenger, essentially. So it's been posted on several things, and our like Facebook group for our airline, someone posted like screenshots of this person. I don't know where this was posted. I think originally it was posted on a Facebook group that was reposted. So essentially this was on a British Airways flight. So this person traveled on this flight, was a passenger, and he wanted to complain about the situation that happened on his flight. Okay. So, hi everyone. I issued the complaint below to British Airways in January and have no correspondence from them aside from the generic "we're looking into your complaint" email. Can you have a read and let me know if it's worth pursuing? Thanks in advance and sorry it's so long. On the 21st of December, we returned to London from Jamaica during a flight. A passenger directly 2 rows behind us passed away in the most horrific way, giving us the most traumatic experience during flight. The flight itself was just short of 3 hours delayed, which was very frustrating in itself as we were traveling with a total of 5 children. 13, 7, 6, and 4, along with my sister who is 6 months pregnant. Whilst the grammar is very difficult on this one, so it's not me, it's the post.
Bear with us.
So whilst we was given vouchers for food, it was a limited amount, which was just about got a meal. It was also very late into the evening, which meant that the children and my sister were very tired, frustrated, and hungry, and ruined their routines. We were told the delay was due to the flight leaving the UK later than expected, therefore causing delays in Jamaica. By the time the flight arrived, everything was extremely rushed in order to get passengers onto the flight, and the flight itself was very dirty. I'm not certain it was even cleaned properly before we were asked to board. Around 3.5 hours prior to landing in the UK, we was awakened by commotion going on by the airline staff and a passenger 2 rows behind us regarding a passenger losing consciousness. Whilst the airline staff responded quite quickly, it was extremely traumatic to witness. My nephew was moved from his seat during his sleep into the row ahead of us onto my lap in order to prevent him from witnessing what was about to occur. Still only 3 rows ahead of the ordeal. The passenger that was losing consciousness was then placed in the aisle beside us in order to perform resuscitation CPR and attempt to save her life. The entire experience went on for over an hour. I've never in my life witnessed something being so someone being shocked or having CPR performed, and never would have expected that to happen on flight returning home. Over the Christmas period, we have been extremely sad, and I am traumatized by this experience, and it is something that neither myself and my immediate family, including the young children, have been able to stop talking or thinking about, and have had many sleepless nights and stress and worries about the events that occurred during the course of the flight. We also have been led to believe that the flight not have been delayed, and this poor lady had been able to eat on time and not had the chaotic experience leading up to the boarding the flight. Her life may not have been wasted.
Oh my goodness.
And she may still be here today. Naturally, during the course of this experience, it meant our flight services were halted, and aside from the initial meal, drinks, and flight meals were discontinued, so we did not receive thorough flight experience, and we had paid for. Wow. I am extremely infuriated by British Airways' handling of this situation. Following the flight, because I would have expected some sort of communication from yourselves to those of us that had been on the flight, particularly close enough to have been impacted and witnessed the whole experience, to check on our well-being, apologize for the experience, and offer some sort of compensation or counseling following it. I have felt it a considerable number of days to allow I have left it a considerable amount of days to allow yourselves to get in contact, but there has been nothing, hence me reaching out in this way now. Wow. In addition to this, leading up to the holiday, there were a number of changes that were already very annoying, such as flights being canceled and not flying directly into and from Montego Bay, which is where our initial holiday was booked for, and our hotel was, which meant that we ourselves with the minors and my pregnant sister had to travel to and from Kingston, which is a 3.5 hour journey by car, and incurred an additional out-of-pocket expense of £400. I would like to hear from British Airways what you plan to do in order to compensate your passengers that had to deal with this ordeal, that will be done to improve your services going forward. In no way is this acceptable, and they should not be normalized or swept under the rug for the family that had to go through the audio of all passengers that had to endure it.
Wow. The inconvenience you caused me of having to perform first aid on someone. What about the inconvenience for the family that just lost one of their family members who, as they said, they passed away in a horrific way, because nobody wants to do that on a plane. How dare they inconvenience this family by having one of their family members pass away on the flight? Obviously sarcasm, but oh my goodness, the audacity. How can you yell at people and say, it's not all about you all the time? Wow, that story kind of boils my blood a little bit. And,
I'm doing good in finding these stories.
You definitely are. So again, I've been doing overseas lately. I'm very lucky to have the seniority to be able to do that. But in doing overseas, I've had a lot of medicals lately. Now, they're not as nearly as bad as this one that we heard about in the story, but when someone's like, what about me? When you're dealing with a medical situation, you're like, you can wait. I'm sorry if you think that you paid for this service, and I'm sorry that you're not receiving the meal at the correct time or whatnot, but I'm dealing with a life or death situation potentially here. So I'm going to deal with that. You can wait. I'm so infuriated by that story. I'm just like, oh my God. Anybody, I know we have a lot of crew members that listen to our podcast. Please comment on how you feel about this story. Please comment wherever you can, on Instagram, on YouTube, or whatnot, because I'm sure some of you have your blood boiling as much as me right now. Is it tragic to witness? Yes, absolutely. Should the airline maybe reach out and say, hey, this was a really poor experience. Obviously, nobody wants to go through this. Here's what we recommend doing, because you can definitely suffer PTSD from witnessing something like this. I've had close friends who have had somebody pass away on board their flights. I've had close friends who have performed CPR and used an AED on a passenger that didn't make it on a flight. It's not easy. It's not easy, obviously, for the passenger and their family. It's not easy on the crew members that have to deal with the first aid situation and then feel like they've failed or something like that. And like, what could I have done? Could I have done something different if I did this instead of that? So you can definitely experience PTSD from things like that. And it doesn't always hit you right away. It's not like you land from the flight and you're like, okay, that flight's over. We'll go on to the next one. It could be a day later, a week later, a month later, where it hits you and you're like, oh my goodness, I just went through this. So for this family, do I feel for them? Yeah, definitely. They definitely were there to witness something that was horrific, was not something you expect on a normal flight. Do I feel like they're saying, hey, you should compensate us for this? I don't think that's right. I don't think it's a compensation thing. I don't know. How do you feel?
Well, no, this person is entitled. And like you said, it's about the person who suffered a medical tragedy on a flight. And definitely, yeah, that's not what they wanted. That's not what anyone wanted. But it's something you can't control. You can't control these medical incidences. What if you're crossing the street and you witness a car accident? Are you going to then sue both drivers for your emotional damage? That's not how it works. That's not how life works. That was an unfortunate situation. And yeah, it's not great. Now your kids may need counseling. You may need counseling. But that's your responsibility to now do. Unfortunately, it's not the airline's responsibility to give you counseling after you've witnessed something on the flight. And the crew, they're probably very traumatized about what happened as well. They tried to save this person's life and they couldn't. So, and yeah, your meal service will get interrupted. Your drink service will get interrupted because they're trying to save someone's life. How can you be so self-centered? And honestly, I'm sorry to say this, but I feel bad for those kids to be raised by you. Those kids, they're going to grow up to be just as self-centered and egotistical as you. So, I mean, you're probably not watching, but person that I just read that complained to British Airways, shame on you, honestly. That's all I gotta say.
Bold. I like it. Ooh, I have to take a deep breath after that one. That's infuriating. And again, anybody out there who's dealt with first aid situations on board, let us know about your experiences. Were you okay after the fact? I know, like for my situations, I've never had somebody pass away on one of my flights, and touch wood, whatever. That hasn't happened. I hope it never happens. But for friends of mine that I know who have had someone pass away right in front of them, it's traumatic. Sometimes you need to seek counseling. Sometimes you need to just talk it through. And like I said before, sometimes it's not going to hit you until a month later. And you're like, oh my goodness, this happened on my flight. I dealt with this. And now you need to talk to someone. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, unfortunately, it's not something that's completely uncommon, the behavior, this person's behavior. Because this reminds me of a story when I was working at the airport, when I first started with the airline. I was working in the Montreal airport, which I've talked about before. But one time, I wasn't part of this flight, but I came to work the next day. And then my colleagues were asking me, did you hear what happened on the Frankfurt flight yesterday? And I said, oh, no, what happened? So the Frankfurt flight that had left the day before had to divert back to Newfoundland, I think, because someone was in medical distress. They unfortunately ended up passing away. But that wasn't the story. The story was a high-ranking businessman, or whatever the heck he thought himself of, had a fit because the plane was diverting back to Canada because he wasn't going to make his business meeting on time because of this. So the people on board, the medical services on the ground, the pilots, everyone, they were diverting the aircraft to save this person's life, or to try to save this person's life. And this one prick had a fit, and I think they had to, I don't know if they had to fully restrain him, but they had to definitely deal with this extra nuisance on board of this guy who felt so entitled and so self-centered of complaining because he was going to miss his business meeting.
That's crazy. Now, we did learn when I went through my first aid instructor training, we do learn that during a first aid situation, people that are witnessing it, sometimes they try to normalize the situation. They're like, I'm just going to pretend that's not happening and try to like live my life normally. So for us on board, it's not uncommon for, we're dealing with a first aid situation. We're carrying a passenger to the back galley or something so that we can, perform CPR or whatnot. And a passenger's like watching this and says, could I get a Coke? And it's like, it's not uncommon. You'd be like, no, not at the moment. We're dealing with something right now. We'll come back later. And it's not wrong. It's just a mental sort of block, and you're trying to normalize the situation. But in the story that you just read, he said, I've allowed enough time to go by. So now you're not in that situation. You're not having that like little kind of brain fart where you're, I need to normalize this. Could I get a Coke? No, now you've had time to process this a little bit, and you're like, well, what about me? What about me and my needs? What about taking care of me? Don't worry about the other passenger on the flight who didn't make it. What about me now? Like, oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to let it go now.
Well, and this guy is not letting it go. Like the guy in the story that I read, because like I said, it was a screenshot of a post from somewhere. So I think he originally made the complaint to British Airways. Then he didn't hear back. He just got that generic email, like he said. I think he reposted it. He reposted what he sent to British Airways on a Facebook forum, I think was what happened. Then that went viral. People screenshotted that and posted it on other things. And then it ended up being reposted on Facebook, where that's where I took the story.
Yeah.
So, and then he's clearly like doing it step by step. People are reposting it, but he's like complaining, then posting it on different forums. And then he's waiting for people to like egg him on, clearly be like, yeah, you definitely need to push for compensation.
He's looking for people to like that mob mentality to get behind him.
Or a lawyer to be like, oh yeah, they owe you this amount of money. Definitely keep pushing, blah, blah, blah.
Ugh. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up before I lose my cool. So
tune in next week to see what story I make Jeremie upset with.
This is fun. I'm quite enjoying this. So I'm just going to throw it out there. If you are out there flying, be nice to your flight attendants because they might be saving someone else's life at the moment.
Or your butt one day.
Thanks, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye, Roxy. Roxy. Bye, Roxy. There you go.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We have new episodes every Wednesday. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Moderate Turbulence on Instagram, at Mod Turbulence on Twitter, and follow us individually on Instagram at HuffyJ and at La Delvie. Thank you.